Hello, and welcome back to Trials of Fire. So, this video is going to be a little different from the others. I'm not necessarily going to be playing through any of these. I've played through a few of these lore quests. I'm kind of going to give my overall thoughts and views on this game. And, well, obviously, just as it is now. It just released, and I've played about a week or so of it. As you can see, I don't have everyone unlocked, like complete 3 different adventures. I've literally only actually completed this. I mean, the farthest I got on any of the other ones was this one, and this boss was just obnoxious, and I hated it. But I got a pretty good idea of how this is. And honestly, now, I don't want to talk bad because overall I think this game is very good. And I don't want to focus on the bad. Unfortunately, I'm a pessimist by nature, so I tend to do that, and I'm going to try not to do that. I mean, I didn't really pay too much attention to the story. I mean, I kind of got the gist of it. You know, cursed land, you're in a post-apocalyptic thing, yada yada, save people, save stuff. Who cares? I'm not playing this game for story. I'm not saying the story is terrible, and I like the flavor of a lot of this. Like, I like the Charred. I especially like this guy just because he's an assassin that just looks bored with everything. You know, all these characters look good. You know, they feel good. Well, okay, they don't all feel good, but they look good and they like fit the world, and you know that's all good. And I do like the fact that you can have a character setup. You see, that's one of the big things I like because I'm going to compare this to Slay the Spire a lot because that's what it's trying to beat when you think about it. Slay the Spire is basically the same kind of game, roguelite, and it's one of the best ones out there, especially for deck building. I'm gonna just straight up say I still think it's better. I think it's better than this game, but this game kind of scratches a different itch. And also, Slay the Spire has been around what 2016. I don't know. I've got millions of hours on that thing, but it's directly competing with that. Like any other game, when you turn this game on, you ask yourself, okay, so would I want to play this type of game? When I'm playing this type of game, would I rather be playing, you know, Slay the Spire? I'm in the same boat with Hades. It's like whenever I try to play a game like Hades, a roguelite that does that kind of game, it's like, would I rather be playing Hades? And so far the answer has always been yes. So I haven't found a game that's even come close to dethroning Hades in my, when I want to have an itch, play a roguelite, you know, from a top view, real time, that's what I play. So, it's just, and this game, I think, has enough difference to where if I play it, I don't necessarily want to play Slay the Spire from playing it. This game takes longer. It has a little more choice. It's a bit more complicated. And when you want to play a more complex kind of long-term game, obviously it even tells you like some of these quests 90 to 120 minutes, not 60 to 90 minutes. Like this one's 240 minutes max. Whereas Slay the Spire, it's 45 minutes at most for a run. Even a completely successful run is 45 minutes. So when you want to, you know, bang one out real quick and play Slay the and you know play around, you play Slay the Spire. But this, if you want to play a little bit longer thing, you play this game. That's not to say it's perfect, and there are some issues I'm going to talk about. Mostly it has to do with, I've noticed, with the combat, mainly balance, and that's probably what's gonna stop me for playing for now, or more specifically playing on basically recording it and showing it. I'll probably go through a point where I complete all these lore quests and on the hardest difficulty and show that when I get there, because I'm going to play this in my spare time. I think I'll probably enjoy it a little more if I'm not trying, if I'm just like, you know, oh, this is bad, I'm just going to cut out of this run, go back and not feel bad about it, to, you know, my viewers, all 10 of you. So yeah, I don't think this is bad. I'm going to go into a little more detail now. So, I just think there's some major balancing issues, especially with combat, especially between the characters, especially for particular types of combat. So, going into it, like the items, I like the item system. This is pretty good, and although I am starting to basically really get the feeling that it's kind of like the item rarity gives you a point, but it doesn't matter. All that matters is the cards attached to them, and sometimes even a lower rarity will be better, and that's fine. I just kind of wish maybe there was some flat stats attached to this or something to make it say, oh, you know, a blue is still almost 97% of the time better than a green. And I'm starting to realize it's not, because it's like, okay, you get a blue card, and in order to make it useful, a blue item, in order to make it useful, you have to hone it, which is expensive unless you have the right follower, to get rid of a certain card so that you don't bloat your deck. Because that's one of the things you eventually learn with this game and Slay the Spire in general, is that deck bloat is bad. While you can get some good cards, if you're putting in too many cards, you risk just drawing garbage or not drawing stuff, and you need to go for a central theme of your deck. Or at the very least, it's a little different with these because you're trying to have them each fulfill a role, but it's kind of the same thing. So I feel items are a bit, rarity, I guess maybe that's the same way for Slay the Spire, but Slay the Spire's really only got two kinds of artifacts, and that's, well, it's got three, but it's really about where you get it from. And even half the time, while the boss relics are like, oh, this is, good, I skip the boss relics plenty of times just because it's like, or I just grab a random one because it's like I don't need any of these. Although the boss relics tend to have at least one or two you always get. But different game, but at the same time, just the rarity of these things feels off sometimes, except for legendaries, which I guess are which are literally the boss artifacts, or occasionally you find in other things. So I'm not going to knock the item system too much. I think it's pretty good. A little bit of tuning here and there, and it'll probably be fine. Although there are so many items, I kind of wonder if we could cut down the slots a little bit, and so you can kind of focus on items, which would probably help avoid deck bloat, because, because in the beginner, you always think, oh, you want to fill a slot, you don't have an empty slot. Well, in these cases, sometimes, since there are no actual stats to these, it's like, you can have an empty slot, maybe two, because what's the point of, having an empty slot and no cards if it gives you almost no stats, except for some things where it gives you armor, I guess. Because, some of these give you armor, sometimes they don't, oh, yeah, it gives you armor. Yeah. So, I don't think armor was necessarily explained, because I don't know if it's defend. I feel like it wasn't. I suddenly don't even realize I don't really know what armor does, but I assume it's, flat reduction. But maybe not. Anyway. I suppose it's a little different for the non-armor having pieces, because it's you can have two weapons, but the weapons don't really increase anything. They just give you cards. So that's a little strange to me. So going on to the characters, I obviously don't have them all, because I haven't completed all the adventures, and this is going to get a lot to reach, just because half the time it's I don't either have the crafting materials or, improving or attuning. It's just that's expensive. So yeah, this one will take a while to get. But looking at the characters so far, I can first off safely say that you always want to have the warrior, which is not a good sign, because there should be no character that you feel you always have to have. Maybe one of these two could replace her, but the fact that she's your biggest baddest frontliner, which you kind of need no matter what, except in maybe certain fights, but it always feels like you kind of need her just to go up there. She can really just mess things up as well as be tanky, so she's literally your melee damage and your chump blocker. The hunter, well, at first I didn't think the hunter was that good, but now I've just come to the conclusion about how broken range damage is, or ranged attacks specifically, and we'll kind of get into that. That's my biggest complaint so far, is just how much better ranged attacks are than anything. Maybe more specifically when the enemy uses them, but he's good. I didn't really go into his summon tree yet, but again, I really do think that ranged attacks are crazy, and you'll see why. Elementist, I know she can be good. I have a feeling she can be good, but the problem is this positioning stuff with her is so bad. Since a lot of your spells will bulldoze your own guys, anything with linear or, an AoE, you might hit, your warrior, and you have to have her up close, and she's not particularly tanky, so that's just painful. And magic just seems to be overly expensive and underly damaging. Now, if it did as much damage as, say, the super expensive things that she does, it's Savage Blows, it costs 2, they can't combo, and it does 6 damage. It just feels like she does not do enough damage for the expense that cards have. Sure, it puts status elements on there, but really the only one that makes me go, whoa, is Shocked, because it does damage to everything, and it's really easy to do melee since everybody can do it. So I'm not feeling her, though I have a feeling she can be strong maybe later on when you can more support her stuff. Warlord is, 50-50. I feel you kind of want her just as your secondary frontliner if you're going to go Hunter. Um, and I think I keep making the mistake of building her as purely support, but she can take hits and she can do a little damage, but she really does buff up. Really, I just have her buff up the warrior. So, but she's good because she can take hits. So she provides a secondary front line, which really nobody else does here. Except kind of sort of him, but not really. Alchemist haven't used him because I saw random on there and got turned off really quickly. The Witch, I've used her once or twice. Again, she kind of suffers the same thing as the Elementus, but since the Witch debuffs enemies, and the thing about I've noticed magic is some of the cards can hit from across the thing without line of sight, whereas others always need like, a frontal or a cone or an area. She tends to be able to hit from anywhere, and she kind of debuffs. So again, I think she's a lot stronger than her, at least a lot easier to use, especially in the beginning. So I get mixed vibes about, oh, I'm sorry, it's a him. Baseline, it's a him. My mistake. But he just seems much easier to use and more useful as a he's a range damage dealer. Yeah, elemental spellcaster. But he just seems easier to use, and the debuffs are just a little bit better for her. Basically, if you don't want to bring her, you can bring him. And the assassin, I've used him once in a game, and I like him. I think I used him wrong. And I think he's definitely like a late game, especially if you build up his deck. And I think if you build him as ranged, I think he'll be a lot better than me having to go in his melee, because you just have him go in his stealth. Because he's got that stealth thing, so he can basically start trading ranged attack with a ranged DPS and not take any damage, because if he's stealthed, you can only go melee to him. So I think he's powerful. I just haven't gotten to use him correctly yet, I get the feeling. Don't know what these two are, but... So again, I like this party system, and I like that you have options, but I do worry, especially with how weak it seems that Magic is to begin, or at least start, that the actual casters, and this guy, because I hate random, need to be rebalanced. And I think these characters need to be rebalanced to where their magic, they can either get in a position easier, like very easy, and get out of it easy, or magic needs to be rethought, especially with its cost. Like 2 will for most magic cards, and that's just not worth it when you come in and do savage blows with her, screw over their ability to combo, which is absurdly powerful, and still do high damage. And, ranged is stupid powerful in this game. So let's go through a quick little bit, and I'll bring up some of my... What are they? What was I going to say? There's words. Words. Do God, Hunter. I'll bring up some of my criticisms with the actual combat, especially with the balance. So let me try this, that, you. I want to try the assassin again because I think I can do a little better with him this time. We're not going to play a full game or a whole game, so I will also say I've been doing this at hard the whole time, so I guess you can kind of blame that. I like the map, and I like the way this works out. I don't mind the food thing. This gets kind of rough, but I'm starting to realize the injury thing is more annoying. Is less annoying than you think, just because whenever you beat a boss, everybody shakes off their injuries. Everybody shakes off one injury, I think. So it almost puts it to where if you use your herbs for anything other than upgrading or streamlining your deck, I don't think it's a good idea. So I really like the map. The map is a good feel, good movement. Oh yeah, good. So like, again, if we look at this item, wow. Giving you fly right off the bat seems stupid powerful. Yeah. Any magic card in your hand? No, but I like the move to any free space. That's aces. Actually, I think I'll give it to you. Where'd it go? But I have no complaints about this overworld system. I think it works really good. I'm not a huge fan of getting RNG, 33% chance to injury, but it is what it is. I mean, it generally presents you with an option. If you don't want to take the risk, you can do a safer thing, but, risk reward. The camping, all that's fine. I think they did that. Melee attack and inflict expose on target. Melee attack add 2 damage per card. Wow. Apparently. The only problem is I wanted to make him ranged. And I can only use it on him. I mean, that's fine. So, put shield on you. And give you that dagger. I was going to try to make him go ranged, but that might not happen this time. So, deal with it, I guess. I guess I'll have to deal with that. No problems with a lot of this. I actually do like this determined thing. And this is a very smart way of balancing this. Because one problem well, it's not a problem, but you could very easily just basically go throughout the map and just, you know, do stuff and get more powerful and then make the rest of the thing trivial. But this kind of keeps you on track because if you're going away from this, you know, your morale goes down and thus lowering your stats. So I think this was very clever on their part, how they made sure that you can wander to your heart's content, essentially, or wander to a point, but then you start taking hits for it. And I think that was very clever and well done. Honestly, this part with the, you know, cover is better. Slightly inconvenient. I'm not sure about that mechanic. Stop this moment and man, they hand over their loot. Alright, let's fight, just so... Okay. So this is a lot less of a thing because they tend to not have... Oh, they do. Okay, so... Especially in this early part, you're about to see how I kind of feel about ranged in this game. Because I don't have any casters, you'll notice. I don't have any... Oh, no. Sorry, my game stopped and I was like, okay. So... all these guys have ranged attacks. They have power shot, swipes. They're kind of just a mix of melee and ranged. Now, the thing about ranged in this game is so long as you have line of sight determined by this, like it's saying what you can see, what you can't see, anything in, you know, yeah. So, if you don't have line of sight of something, you can't range attack. But if it's a line of sight, it doesn't matter the ranged. Now, melee, you of course have to be in melee. Makes sense, and that's generally why it hits harder and has kind of better effects. But magic, the problem with magic I'm finding is the fact that magic is just so inconsistent. Like range and melee, very consistent. Magic is not consistent. It's overexpensive, and especially in the early parts, hell, even the later parts, it's like you might have a lightning bolt that'll go like this far, but it'll also hit everybody in a line. That's useful. It's just, you don't get very many powerful cards, and the lower level cards are so bad that you just don't want to use them. Versus ranged, that you can hit anything anywhere consistently. And consistency is a big thing, especially later on when you look at like, because we're starting 3-3. That's pretty good. But when you get later on, when there's 5 of them, you just start losing because they get so many cards, they can drop so much energy to feed their powerful guys. And they have so many like range attacks and combo attacks in this game. There are so many cards you have to throw off combo attacks and for you. But combo attacks are really for the enemy. Because there's about, 3 of them now. There could be 5 or 6 of them. They surround you and just beat the ever-loving crap out of you with combo attacks. So it just seems that might need to be nerfed a little. They can nerf it universally. But combo attacks and ranged attacks serve to give them huge amounts of priority. Because if they're ranged, in this case, well, let's face it, they're not the one doing long-term health. I am, so it lets them almost guarantee some damage. And no matter how well I play, they can get that damage off. Not a huge fan of that, and I understand sometimes that'll happen, but it's just range just seems so much more powerful than everything else. Like, watch this. Okay, I gotta actually get some energy first. Like, there's no point in keeping these Wild Swings. I'm never going to get close enough with no move to do 3 damage. Wild Swing sucks, by the way. Replace it with Savage Blow first chance you get. Like, I'm just going to poke him. And there's nothing... Okay. Poke. Actually, here's what we do. Poke. Poke. And now I'm just going to move out of range. Oh, now what are you going to do? Nothing. I should have inspired him. That was my fault. Gonna move you up. Because the only way you can avoid range is get out of line of sight. And half the time, oh, this person has a ton of range. We'll just dump all our melee cards, and we'll just range you to death. And keep this, and it's your turn, boys. Huh. Yeah, now pinning shot. See, just so much power in being able to not have only require line of sight. Way too much power versus, you know, what else they have set up. Okay, so since you can't move, just drop all your cards. Set up, exposed. We could kill him with this. That was ridiculous. Okay. Could have inspired, killed him a little earlier, but that's fine. Now move up so he can't combo strike. Granted, this is early stuff, so it's super easy. Ow. Okay. Well, we can probably end this turn. Advance. Move up on him. Put that on top of my deck because move up. Charge. Oh, you're still immobilized? Oh, that's right, because they shot you twice. Well, you're useless. Okay. Okay. Now they'll be able to combo. Never mind, I don't know why he moved away. Ow! Oh, because they're kiting. Okay. Wow. Alright, so just drop that. We could move unseen. And then running shot, which is a ridiculous card. Mm-hmm. Okay, so get rid of swipe. Charge! Bam! Oh, it didn't combo. Don't know why. Can we just do it this way? Well, that would kill you. Actually, no, we want to do it this way. Yeah, okay, so he's flanked, so he can't. Well, then tell you what. Oh, well. That's poo-poo. Fine. And I also will say I do like how block works and defend in this game, because losing half of it I think is fine, especially since you get cards that give you so much. And it also is kind of fair to the enemy, because if they start building up block, that's a strategy, and having them lose the whole thing at the end of their turn, or, well, not the end of their turn, well, how does it work? Is it the end of your turn? Oh no, it's the beginning of your turn, that's right, my mistake, but yeah. I think that's a good idea too, and I like how they did that. Rethink. I'll just put you on top. Alright, so advance, running shot, because if we move in a melee to him, we can't do our ranged attack. him up. Beat him up. Okay. Like I say, it's less obvious in this particular game, but I just get very frustrated with how ranged works in this game, especially such a huge advantage to the enemy. And even they seem to be able to use magic pretty well, but the fact that it's 3 to sometimes 5 to 6, that's a huge problem, especially with combo. I know it's supposed to be hard like that, but the enemy outstats you a lot of the time too. Maybe I'm just complaining and being a little bit too, like, I like this. I really wish it didn't give you 4 swipes to start. That's a little excessive considering how basic that card is. The tired mechanic, again, that's not bad. We'll just rest. Let's see. Like this. It gives me 1 armor, but I really don't want to have that card in my deck. I do. Is it going to tell me what armor does? How the mechanic works exactly? Or as an additional health? Okay, that's what it is. Right, right. Alright, so that makes more sense. Okay, that makes more sense because with this, because you start off with 10 health and, you know, she has more armor, so she takes more of a buffer. But still, this has no armor, so why would I want this random magic card? Okay, so I take back the criticism about items not having any passive stats. Well, specifically, I take it back because that only works with armor. Because obviously, this has no passive stats. So there's no reason for me to take this. It's literally better to have an empty slot, which I don't think is good design there. There should be something to want to make it to where I say I want to equip that and not have an empty slot. But it's better to have an empty slot in this case instead of a card I do not want. Destroy a friendly summon character. Yeah. Okay. Because empty slot should be a no-no if I could fill it. But that's not the case in this case. So going forward, let's see. Participate in it says 25 health damage or 66 food shop. Let's just do this. I tend to win it. Won it this time. Need food, obviously. Okay. Sure. Nursing bad burns, of course. But I got something epic. Go me! Like this. Now that's nice. Yeah, although honing it would be nice. Attack or random. Yeah. Okay. Alrighty. Ooh, I want to see what this is. It's probably a legendary creature fight. I don't think I'd want to do that right now, but I want to check it out before I, This must be the Devil's Finger, legendary southmost tip of that region. Volos. Sure. Ooh, that's nice. So this is something that would definitely go to her. Has any defense or is chilled. Wow. That's brutal. Okay. Luck's with me on this run so far. Okay. So, again, I don't mind a lot of that. My biggest complaint has just come with how the different characters are balanced and what ones you want to bring and just how silly ranged feels to play against. It doesn't feel as overpowered for you, but it does feel very overpowered to play against. And even even Magic most of the times, like, if I see a caster, it's just like, yeah. I mean, I can kind of... I know the whole thing with ranged is you're supposed to be able to get close to them, and they can't use ranged. And that's fine. That's a decent weakness. The problem is that all they have to do is get a movement card or even just drop a card to move energy, and then unless you're using something that prevents them from moving, which honestly Immobilize is kind of expensive to use, then they just get away and shoot you. There might might need to be a thing where if you get close to them, they can't use ranged until they aren't near you a turn. Granted, then that would cripple range when I think about it, because then it's just like, okay, you can eliminate any range, even bosses, by just moving next to them each turn. So, I don't know, but, or, I mean, honestly, I think the easiest option would just be range has a max range. Instead of, you can, as long as you can see them, you can hit them. I don't know, make it like Magic, to where it only has maybe 5 spaces. Mainly to where you can't just do it at the beginning of the fight, and they essentially anybody with range gets like a free turn to just beat the crap out of them. And since the enemy has like 5 or 6 ranged, I just don't. I think it needs a little nerfing, not much, but it just doesn't feel good to play against. And honestly, since range cards tend to be expensive for your side, where cost is a lot more, cost matters a lot more to you as a player than it does to the enemy. It doesn't always feel good to play. There's some good range cards. Honestly, I think one of the best cards in the game is this running shot. I mean, range damage, and you get to move at the cost of 1. Sure, you don't generate an energy, but still. Especially when the enemy uses it, it's ridiculously good. But, and I'm sorry I couldn't show you, like, my big gripe with that, but I'm kind of going on 30 minutes now, and I think for a quick review, that'll probably be good. So just wanted to give you my feelings on this game. I am going to be playing it on the side, probably to get more cards and level some characters, get more characters. And I'll probably revisit it and play play through some of the lore stuff on the hardest difficulty when I get the hang of it. But I do think it's a good game, despite all my complainings. I do think there are some balance issues they need to work through, and hopefully they're going to be updating it a lot still, even though it's come to a full release, and it's been out, 2019 was when this game hit early access and you could play it? But it's still good overall. It definitely scratches a different itch than Slay the Spire. And just for, again, I'm just not going to be playing it on my channel for now. Later I'll probably show some playthroughs of me when I've got more refined in it and I can, clear stuff. And it'll probably be like where I talk about it retroactively, not, you won't hear me talking about it when I'm playing, just talking about it. I'll record something while I'm watching it. So for our next thing I'm going to be doing is I saw that this Thursday, basically April 29th, we are going to have a new Monster with Eratus. So what am I going to do to celebrate that? I'm going to play on the hardest difficulty. I'm going to try a playthrough on Cataclysm, I think it is, or whatever that one is, and see if I can't get through it. I'll probably have to restart a few times, but I think that's fine, and hopefully that'll take up a good enough time where maybe Darkest Dungeon 2 Early Access comes out. Maybe not. I don't know. But I'm hoping we'll see it. Anyway, that's what we'll be doing soon up. So, thank you very much for watching. Again, good game. I recommend it. Just needs a little more polishing than it has. Especially with range. Hate it. Hate it when the enemy does it. They seem to have such a huge advantage with that. I know they're supposed to because they're the computer, but still. The AI is actually pretty intelligent with most of the stuff it does. So, it hurts a lot. But thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. If you could do all the lovely interactive stuff, the algorithm loves it, and I'll love you if you do it. Or at least, like you a whole lot. Maybe a firm handshake, maybe a high five. But I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.